Hello and welcome to the Isolated Ape podcast. But before we get into this week's episode, I just wanted to have a little chat about Instagram. So we had a ban on Instagram. We followed too many people too quickly. Just trying to gain followers. It's the way it's normally done. But if you overdo it, and I had itchy trigger fingers, then you get a little ban. So it gave me time to have a look at the content that I was putting out and uniform it, tidy it up, make it a lot slicker. So that's live now, up and ready to go. Go and give it a like, give it a follow, share it if you could, and hopefully we can get a bit more traction from the Instagram. That's where I'm getting most of me guests from and things like that. So looking well on that side of things. Just to reiterate, no more YouTube. The YouTube channel isn't going to be uploaded to anymore. With the podcast app, with Spotify, you can go, and if we're talking about images of from a photographer, you can go and find that guy on Instagram and have a look through there. So that's the reason we've stopped that. On to this week's episode. So this week is episode number 19, and I brought back another guest, guest number 1, Mindaugas. So Mindaugas is a good mate of mine, and I was originally just testing the equipment and testing the software, and we ended up having a decent enough chat that I released it as episode number 1. I wanted to bring Mindaugas back because at that time COVID-19 was fairly new, and again we were just testing the equipment, that we didn't really talk too much about him and what he's about. So I would sum Mindaugas up in one word as an entrepreneur. He's always coming up with ideas of things that may work, whether it's a business, whether it's to help a community, things like that. And his latest venture is Smart Chef app. So smartchefapp.com. Links you up with a lot of chefs who are out of work because of COVID-19, very talented chefs sat at home, and we got a lot of people who were sat in their home wishing they could have the culinary delights of these chefs. So Mindaugas has found a way to bring you guys together. Really, really cool idea. So we talk a lot about that, and we talk about other kind of ideas and businesses and things that he's had in the past. Some of them have been very successful, some of them not as successful, and that's always the way with entrepreneurship. And we discuss kind of how easy it is nowadays, or relatively cheap or even free to test out businesses and test out ideas. You don't have to have a whole load of investment, and the lessons that you're learning from that. So really cool conversation. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Enjoy. Peace. And actually, one more thing. Halfway through, I'd say about 30 minutes into the conversation, at a quite ironic point, we have a bit of a technical glitch. But again, through the lessons learned through this podcast, we managed to get them fixed up. So you'll hear when that comes in fairly clearly. Enjoy, man. Peace.
It makes me higher than a motherfucker. There's no rolling around, keeping in with the crowd, keeping it around for people this say.
And recording. There we go. And we're off. So this week we've got another returning guest number 1, man. Mindaugas, how you getting on, bud?
Doing good. All things considered, I'm doing good.
Yeah, so welcome back. The podcast has come a long way since we last spoke, man. Well, not since we last spoke, since we last recorded speaking, I suppose. I remember the first time we did this was purely just to test that the software that I'd got was working, and it ended up being released. And now we're episode number 19 and doing really well, man. So happy. Yeah, 19. This is episode number 19, mate. Yeah.
Sweet.
So yeah, all good. So you've been busy in between times as well, right? So I think when we spoke last time, an idea for a website and a platform to connect certain people was something that was in very early stages of your mind. Where are we at now, man?
So yeah, we're at. The thing is built pretty much. It is built. It works. Like you can, a chef can create a listing. They can enter their bank details to get paid, set up their calendar, and you can go and book somebody for a virtual cooking class or a baking class. We even have a sommelier on it as well.
Sommelier, I've heard that name, and I know it's a chef in town, but what do they do?
So they specialize in wine and wine only.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so you could do like a wine tasting class if you wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Class, man.
Mhm.
And I've seen obviously on Instagram you've been testing this and how it works and doing the classes yourself and you seem to be having a lot of fun with it and it's more than just you, right? I mean, if I wanted to come on, if we
Yeah.
wanted to share that chef and then sit down and have dinner after, we can do so, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. We've had dinners with people from tuning in from Amsterdam at the same time. People have had, one of my colleagues lives in Panama and she's stuck there with her boyfriend and they had dinner with like their family and friends from somewhere else. So like it's, time zones permitting, you can get a bunch of people in and just cook together.
Yeah, man. So it'd have to be, I suppose, lunch. I suppose would be good. Imagine getting up for your breakfast and then you're cooking some fancy evening meal. But yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of options there. Cool, man. And how did you go about? Where did this idea come from? And how did you go about setting it up? What was the kind of steps?
That was pretty much just like in times of stress, my brain seems to just kick into like a different gear where I start thinking of ideas and solutions. So when this whole pandemic hit, I wasn't technically worried about anything. Like I'm fine, right? I'm doing okay. So I just started thinking, having worked in hospitality for many years, I was like, damn, that industry is screwed right now. And will be screwed and potentially changed forever. So I was kind of thinking, all right, well, is there anything I can do to help? And, in my head, I was just imagining all the different professions that work within a restaurant, let's say. And I was thinking, well, for a waiter, I can't really do much. Like, I don't know what, can be done there.
There's no saving them, like, yeah.
But then I was like, barman, not sure. But then chef, I'm like, these people, highly skilled individuals that are, sitting at home, and we were thinking like, shit, how often are we gonna be able to go to the supermarket? Maybe we'll have to work with some ingredients that we don't know what to do with them, right? So that went from me thinking this was like a Thursday night. I went to sleep thinking about this, and I woke up on Friday, and I was like, yeah, there's something to this. And I messaged one of my friends in Madrid who's a foodie. And I was like, hey, do you know any chefs? Obviously, they're going to be out of work that I could chat to. So he connected me to a chef in Madrid. And I sent her a message just saying, like, listen, this is super rough. Like, I don't really know what I'm describing here, but an online cooking session, like, would you be down? And she just got the concept immediately. She was like, yeah, totally get it. This is such a great idea. So we booked, that was Friday. I think we booked the session for Sunday, and me and Orla just tried it out, and we had so much fun. Like, it was an hour of just, you completely switch off from everything that's going on, but also learned a ton. Like, honestly, I thought I can cook until I got on a call with an actual chef. Like, you quickly realize the basics. You don't even know the fucking basics. And
Class, man, yeah. And you're a foodie as well, and you've worked in the industry for a while. I mean, we've often laughed and discussed your passion for food and my lack of passion for food, right? So, food is fuel for me, man, and it's literally what it is. And then other people really enjoy going out and having a meal. Like me and Sarah, we've been together, I'm going to say 11 years. I'd say we've probably gone, you could count on two hands the amount of times we've gone out for dinner, We'd rather eat at home and go to the pub and go to a gig, But again, it's different strokes for different folks. But even this idea I really like, because it's not just you're getting the great food at the end of it, which hopefully you do get as long as you follow these instructions as precisely as you can. But like you say, it's a skill that you're picking up, you're learning, and
100%.
Pubs, even, restaurants are going to struggle to, pubs are going to struggle to get back. I think fine dining in the home, fakeaways and stuff like that rather than takeaways are going to be the bomb, right? So, yeah, man. And what kind of dishes have you experimented with so far?
So we've done. I'm actually cooking one of the recipes that we picked up from one of the chefs. I'm cooking it tonight because it's just been so good and so easy. So it's a pea and mint risotto. Super easy to make. But again, I made risottos before, and cooking with this chef, I learned that I was making a ton of mistakes. So now they're even better. So that we've done. Another one is delicious. It's this cauliflower dish with like really nice mash, smoked paprika mash. What else? We've done bacon. We baked some brownies. I baked some French tart the other week with a French chef. That was really hard. Pastry, so hard, man.
Yeah. There's a skill to that.
Yeah, we're doing a virtual bake-off with one of my colleagues in Amsterdam, and she won. She won that one, unfortunately.
And that's a good thing. If you can get a couple of friends on, you're all cooking together, you're all having a bit of crack. And then I assume kind of, you sit down and eat the meal together, right? Or a bit of whatever it is.
We've had like, even with the original chef that, this whole thing kind of started off with, we became friends over this whole thing, and one of the nights me and Orla were just like, right, we're gonna cook tonight, but you're not gonna log off at the end of it. We're all gonna eat together. So she cooked with her wife, and they had some wine. We had some wine. We ended up online like chatting for like 3 hours or something.
Happy days, man. Happy days. That's cool. And what platform do you use to do is it Zoom or? Does it is it built in, or how does that work?
It's not built in. That's the one thing I'm trying to figure out, because I think it's a bit of a blocker for people to book the session, because it's kind of down to the customer then to figure out those details.
Right. Okay.
So I'm trying to think of how to fix that. But yeah, I'm seeing that as a bit of a blocker, so that's something I'm working on.
I know a lot of people do quizzes and stuff through Zoom, and we do a quiz on a Saturday night that just turns into a session. The quiz is a reason to get together and a bit of a crack and a bit of laugh, but we'll all have a sing song after, and we're all fairly twisted after it, because Zoom, and if you're on the free version of Zoom, it's 40 minutes, I believe, is the limit. So we use that House Party app, which is connected to your phone in terms of, I think it's routed through phone number. Might be worth looking in if there's a way of trying to link that, because it's a free app, costs you nothing, and there's no time limit on it, and everyone's got a mobile device, right? So you don't even need a laptop for it or whatever. So it might be something to look into. I don't know, but that's what we use for the quiz, because of the no time limit on it. It's decent enough. And this is not your first kind of venture into business, right? Or setting things up for yourself and doing things for yourself. So, I mean, we go way back in terms of, and again, hospitality, like Lanzarote days. We worked in many places together. And one of when we set up the Abacus bar, the cocktail bar that you had on the terrace was a dinger. And I saw you put an Instagram post up the other day of the Abacus cocktail. Certainly brought back some memories, man. Tell us about that cocktail.
Made that on Saturday. Got smashed on them. I was hanging on Sunday, really like bad. Both of us.
What were the ingredients for that again? Was it strawberry daiquiri?
Yeah, so that was a strawberry.
The red.
So
So let's just explain, I suppose, because the Abacus bar was a bar that we had over in Lanzarote. Myself, me missus, her brother, and Annalise, a friend of ours, were kind of all partners in it. And you came and again, we all knew how to make the odd cocktail here and there. It's part and parcel of the bar trade in Lanzarote, right? But we didn't have the cocktail skills that you had. So you opened up your own little business on the bar, but it was a reggae bar. So I think that's important, because we'll be talking about this kind of cocktail and people are like, oh yeah, it sounds lovely, but what's the link to Abacus? Yeah. So Abacus was a reggae bar, or a reggae themed kind of bar. So what were the ingredients for that bad boy? Because I got smashed off in a few times.
Yeah. So obviously, to mimic the colors, the green, red, and yellow, as Jamaican kind of colors. Obviously, mint is the green bit. The yellow, I used to make like a mango puree, and then the red was a strawberry puree. So the usual ingredients for a mojito, like the rum, sugar, mint, lime, whatever. But I would layer. So obviously the green is sitting at the bottom, your mint. Then I would layer some mango puree on top of that, and then some strawberry puree to finish off. And then you have the tricolor.
That was a moneymaker, man.
That was a moneymaker. You know, like I always remember that time when you guys opened up the bar and I walked up the stairs, and the first thing I thought in my head, I was like, there needs to be a cocktail bar on this terrace. Like, this, it's just such a no-brainer, you know? Because making fresh cocktails in front of people, there's no way they're not going to want one, right? Even if you and says, I'm not really into cocktails, if you're making them fresh right in front of your face, you're going to be like,
I might try one of those.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah, and in fairness, the PR's downstairs, because it was an upstairs bar, wasn't it? So the guys on the street that were getting people up, Pete and the lads, like, you just give them one of them to stand downstairs with, and it certainly got attention of people, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Abacus bar were good days. And then you ended up back in Dublin, and you were working in recruitment, I believe. Well, you know, I know you did a couple of bits before, but recruitment, you ended up in recruitment, and then started doing something for yourself there, did you?
Yeah, I was working for a recruitment agency, and then kind of got into design and recruiting designers for companies. And then I was trying to, so in Dublin at the time, there was a lot of tech companies like now, but they were, in terms of design and hiring designers into tech companies, they were a little bit behind the US, but I always kept an eye on what was happening, the trends, you know, and in the US, all of a sudden, everybody was hiring designers. And I remember saying to my boss, like, give it 12 to 18 months and Dublin everybody's going to be looking for a designer. So I was kind of like, let me build up the network, a good desk, loads of contacts. When the boom hits, we'll be ready and you're going to be cashing in. He didn't see it. Like, he kind of was like, his kind of bread and butter was developers, software developers. So he wasn't really seeing it, and I ended up just kind of saying, all right, well, if you don't want to do it, I'll just go do it for myself. So I kind of fucked off and did it on my own. Did that for 2 years. In one way, made a lot of mistakes, but it led to a point or a place where I am now, which if I hadn't done it, that would have never happened. So you know,
it's all worked out nicely. In fairness, I mean, you can't complain. You're living in a love. So you're in Valencia at the moment. Work from home role. With a design based company. And that never would have happened without. What was the name of it? Solus.
Yeah, so Solus was the
Solus. That was my memory's good for a stoner, bro.
Yeah, but my company was Sketch Labs.
Sketch Labs, there we go.
Yeah,
man. You had a thing for labs. I remember the cocktail lab as well, wasn't it? Or man. And the white coats, the men in the white coats. You were something for that. Man, good times. And if I remember rightly, back then when you were setting up your own thing, you got a bit of a nudge from the lads in the ink factory. They were the one who kind of gave you the push, or kind of, you know, mentioned you were talking to them about wanting to do something, and you know, and this is what the kind of thing I want to do with this kind of podcast is let people know that you take a jump, it might not work out exactly how you want it to, but it's worked out for you lovely, right? In a different way, not exactly how you planned it back then. But yeah, they seem to be quite keen on getting people to do bits and pieces and push. That's the barber shop and what have you in there as well, right? Barber shop and tattoo studio. Man, that was a good idea. And again, when I opened Urban Jungle, I went along the similar sort of route. We had a barber shop and a tattoo studio within the venue for the daytimes, and then night times was a totally different ball game. But the crossover and the push. I mean, would you kind of, if anyone's got any ideas or things that they want to pursue for themselves, as a guy who's done it a few times, what advice would you give?
Well, the first thing is don't quit your day job before, like, start it on the side if you can. So the whole thing, I had to, when I left the recruitment agency, I had to quit because I was in direct competition with my own job at that time. And I actually had a non-compete for 1 year where I couldn't touch any of my old contacts, clients, all of that stuff. But if you're if you're planning on working on something that doesn't directly compete with what you're doing today, like, just take your time, do it on the side as long as you can, until you figure out that this actually is a thing that's going to work.
Okay.
Too many people, unless, the idea is so great and you go to an investor and they give you 50 million, then they're going to expect you to quit your job. But if that's not an option, which it isn't for most people, just stick to what you're doing, stick to your day job, and just build it slowly. But the biggest thing is I use kind of a framework. I have a lot of ideas, way too many ideas all the time. But I've learned over the years to kind of trust my instincts on certain things. So if I have an idea, I'll always sleep on it. And then the next day, if it still makes sense, I'll do a little bit of research. Does it already exist? If it doesn't, why not? Is there a reason? Just a shit idea, right? That people have explored and there was no market for it, right? So I kind of take, usually, if then a week later it's still on my mind, I'm like, all right, there's something to it. So maybe I'll do a little bit of more research, maybe play around with some, like, a prototype of sorts.
See, that's like, and again, this is something that I play. I've come to you with multiple kind of ideas, and there's probably you, Ian, Aaron, and Nikki, and me 4 lads that I would go to, and obviously my wife as well. And 9 times out of 10, I go to my wife first, and she goes, "That is shit, mate. Don't be wasting your fucking time," right? But then I've come to you lads. They're me kind of 4 go-to fellas that I'd speak to about certain ideas that I have. Do you think there's a viable business in this? Do you think it's worth pursuing, putting a bit of time into? And the stages that you've just mentioned there is something that I would certainly work to, but where you've just got to now is where 9 times out of 10 they fall on their ass and come to a halt. So what happens for you after that? Because mine just come. This is probably the first thing. Obviously the abacus bar, and obviously Urban Jungle was something that I put, and developed to the point of it being live and a running, functioning business, right? This for now is the next thing that I've kind of put my time and effort into. It's certainly not a business. It's certainly not bringing any income at the moment. I wouldn't even ask anyone for a penny when we're in these uncertain times, maybe when everyone's back to work, I can open up some sort of Patreon, give if you want to give type idea, but I wouldn't do that now. But again, kind of, there's probably 3 times out of a million ideas that I've followed through. How often do these ideas come to you, and how often do you chuck them away once you're at this point that you were discussing?
I think most of the time they get chucked away for one reason or another. It's just like this kind of if it's something that's worth pursuing and carrying through, like, it'll become clear. So, I've chucked away a ton of ideas. I've gotten, years ago, I remember when I first moved to Dublin, I worked for the sales company, and I fucking hated it. They were just awful people to work for. And I remember being really stressed out because I wanted to quit, but I couldn't because we, just got a new apartment, didn't really have much money, like, couldn't end up without a job even for a week, right? And I remember just sitting at home one day, just fucking stressed out of my head. And I just started thinking, I don't know, I have no idea how these ideas came to my head, but I just started thinking. And then I ended up starting this thing where I was like, okay, so I'm from Lithuania, obviously. And I was like, there's a lot of talented people at home in Lithuania that probably, have nowhere to put their skills or don't know how to use them to make money. Somehow I arrived at an idea that there's a lot of talented fashion designers sitting at home, right?
Shit, man, I remember this.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You know? And all of a sudden, I'm talking to some fucking fashion designers in Lithuania and figuring out a way that there's like, they can make these custom clothes for people and I can ship them and
Be the middleman.
Be the middleman, right? At the time, I remember some online magazine picked up the idea. I can't remember how. I think it was like through my Twitter or Instagram or something. And they did this piece about the whole thing. But at the time, I remember I had no money. One, I got to a point where like the orders started increasing a little bit, but I had to pay for them, right? And I couldn't pay for them. I didn't know anything about like building a website at the time. Everything was done through Instagram and Twitter. I didn't know how to go and raise money. So even if, you know, that could have been a multi-million-dollar idea, but
this was many years ago, wasn't it, as well? This was probably 2013, maybe, with it?
Mm-hmm.
Around then? Because I know I hadn't come back from Lanzarote long. And think of that now. Now look at the drop shipping and businesses that are just available, that back then, if you could have not had to carry the inventory and not have to pay for those clothes and then send them on once, you know, it's pretty much a case now that the customer orders from you and you tell them to make it and ship it.
Yeah.
And that's a viable business now. I've got a few mates that are doing really well out of that, you know. Yeah, man. Jeez, I forgot about that because I remember the tattoo, Alberto, the tattoo artist that we've both used and you used to work for and over in Lanzarote. And again, he's going on to huge things. Now he's out in LA every other fucking week.
Yeah.
Not at the moment, obviously. But he's doing amazing things on the tattoo scene at the moment. But yeah, I remember saying to you, like, remember there was that sketch pad that he had and we just used to flick through that sketch pad and look at that, look at that, look at that. I was like, let's go and get a load of that, mate. Just stick them on T-shirts. You'd be laughing.
I did. I hit him up about that as well.
Yeah. I remember you sending an image of one that was kind of, you know, that you could mock up on screen and send it through. But yeah, because he did all the kind of gladiator sketches and stuff, didn't he? Like the gladiator in the Colosseum and all that kind of jazz. Yeah. But man, Alberto, he's flying. Delighted for him.
But yeah, the one thing I'll say, like, actually back to your point about, you know, what happens when you arrive at a certain point with an idea. Like, there's a lot of free or very cheap ways to test your ideas these days, right? We live in very good times for that, right? So even if you get to a certain point and you just are testing your idea, I know that through the last few years, even just doing maybe, you know, 5% of it or getting it to a certain point, you learn a ton of shit, right? I now know about all these tools, marketing, all of this social media, all of this kind of stuff, right? That a course, for example, doing an online course is not going to teach you. It
doesn't teach you whether you're going to get blocked and banned on fucking Instagram, is it? If you follow too many people, ta-da, you know? Man. Yeah, that's a great point, man. Like just try it and you'll learn more for the next one, right?
That's the thing. And today you can do it very, very cheaply or free most of the time. And even with this, you know, the chef thing, like one of my mates is a CEO of a product company in Dublin. And I was chatting to him when I was starting to build, when I built the platform. And, you know, I didn't code it, but I used something else to help me build it. That was still, I've never done it before. And the first thing he said to me, he's like, forget what this is and what it could be. He's like, what have you learned? And I was like, well, now I know what it takes to build a marketplace. So even if this thing doesn't work, if I have an idea 6 months down the line, that is gold, right?
Yeah.
I can execute it within a week rather than a month. That's taking now, right? And it's cost me so far a couple €100.
Yeah.
That's the investment. And an online course ain't gonna teach you that.
Yeah, man, you're dead right. You're dead right. Even with the podcast, for example, you know, this is something of the amount of skills that I've picked up.
Yeah.
from this podcast. It's at this point, ironically, as I'm talking about the skills I've learned, that we have a technical hitch. Internet crashes, panic for about 4 seconds, deep breath, compose yourself, get back on the horse. Enjoy. Bang, we're back, man. I'm not even going to lie about it, Mindas. We seem to lose each other there and the internet dropped. So, where I lost you was when we were talking about the fact that the amount of things that you learn while you're, building these ideas and developing these ideas. And certainly I've learned a whole load through building this podcast between audio editing, building YouTube videos, which are going to be dashed now for certain reasons that, with the YouTube videos, the reason I'm not doing them anymore is you have to put a visual with it when people can just really come out of the podcast app while still listening to the podcast on Spotify or whatever it is you listen to. And if we're talking about certain images on someone's Instagram feed, they can just go to those. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm at on that. But even I came to you for this Instagram ban's been a bit of a godsend in terms of it's given me time to go and build my Instagram game, and you've helped with that with, again, like you mentioned, the free websites that are available to build these posts, that I knew nothing about. And now come Saturday when this is released, I'm very confident with how my page is going to look, and it's going to look slick and clean. And, and a lot of that is down to free stuff and again, people that are helping me with passing on advice. How did you find out about all these apps? I mean, let's, for example, Unsplash, Canva. How did that's what I've been using recently to build stuff, and again, it all came from the guidance of you. Where did you find? Did people help you, or?
Years ago, when I first got into design recruitment, I realized that designers are very visual people, and the traditional job description just did not work for them, right? 5 pages of bullshit just did not catch their attention. So I started...
Well, for anyone really, but definitely a designer, man, yeah.
So I was kind of started thinking about, okay, well, how do I grab these people's attention? And there's a funny story how I made my first visual job advert and I got ripped to shreds by this designer.
Go on, tell us then.
On Twitter. It was basically... when I was working for the recruitment agency still, this is before my own thing, there was one of my colleagues, she had the design desk at the agency, and she was leaving, and I was going to take it over. So she was handing over all her clients, all her contacts, and all that stuff. And the day we had a meeting to kind of go over, she was going to give me a list of people like I should know in the design industry in Dublin, that I should connect with, blah, blah, blah. So just before we went into that meeting, I posted on Twitter my first visual job advert. It was shit. But anyway, tweeted out, went into the meeting with her. So we're going through the list of people, and she's like, so yeah, this guy, Owen Barra, he's, super connected in Dublin in the design industry. You should definitely know him. Cool. Come out, check my phone, check Twitter. Owen Barra quote tweeted the guy that she just mentioned, quote tweeted my tweet saying, when will these fucking idiot recruiters ever get it? And then loads of comments underneath. I'm not even joking. My heart just dropped and I was like, that's it. Like, I'm ruined, right? Before I even started this design recruitment thing. Like, I'm dead in the water. Yeah. But in my head, I had 2 options. I could go in the corner and cry, or what I did was I looked up his phone number in our database. And I called him up. And he answers the phone and I'm like, hey, it's Mindas from Solace. You just shared my tweet. Long silence. And he just burst out laughing. He's like, dude, I can't believe you picked up the phone and called me. And I was like, look, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, if I messed up, right, I want to do better. So tell me, how can I do better?
Yeah, man.
And from
that's a ballsy move, dude, to be fair to you, do you know?
We had a long chat. We ended up becoming good friends. I was hanging out in his studio, and he had his own design studio at the time. He makes gin now, but we're still friends now to this day. So So from that conversation, from that kind of incident, if you want to call it, I then started researching some tools and things like that I could use to make these more visual adverts. So from there, I discovered like Canva, and like yourself, I just Google, check the first page, try them all out, see what works, what doesn't. And obviously like Canva was one of them. Unsplash was probably another one of them. And you just kind of go from there. You just, it just leads you, all these little steps you take, it just leads you down this path.
Yeah. The color palette one as well, man. For anyone out there that's looking for an idea of colors, there's and I don't know how I'm going to link it to anyone. I don't even know how you find it. You sent me a link and I've been using it since. I've saved it on a notepad and tip away. Like that color palette's great. So it gives you an option of 3, 4, 5, however many colors you want, but the ones that tie in really well together, and just use it as a theme, man. And again, between Canva, and that color palette, when the Instagram posts come out for the Isolated Ape, when we're allowed back on, you'll see kind of what we're talking about and how easy it is to use. And let me tell you, if I can do it, anyone can do it, Yeah, man. So let's go back to Smart Chef and finish up, because I think the first part of the recording was around half an hour, and we're 5 or 6 minutes into the second part. So let's go back to Smart Chef and how do we? Again? Am I right in saying, is it called Smart Chef? Is it because I know that was a name you were toying with? Is that what it solidly is now, and where can we find it?
For now, it is. I think, that was, again, some very quick decisions were made on the naming. I had a few names that I was playing around with. But again, I've done it a few times before. And like creating a name for a business, whatever a project, is so hard. Like I've read somewhere it could take from 6 weeks to 6 months.
Yeah.
And I've been through that process. And once you've done it a few times, you start trusting your intuition and instincts much, much quicker. So the more you do it, the easier it gets. It's very simple. I had a few other names. I can't remember what they were. So Smart Chef, it's smartchefapp.com. I bought a .com. It was not 80,000. It was like €3 or something.
yeah, because I remember when you were saying the first time you sent it through, or the first thing I had to look at was smartchef.xyz or something, wasn't it? And you said the .com was ridiculous. So just putting the app on the back end of it has saved you a few quid.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Again, I was trying to do this as cheaply as possible because I was like, I don't know what it's going to take. And at the time when I was building this, Airbnb released online experiences, which is basically the same thing.
Right, yeah.
I will, though, say I did not copy Airbnb. I built this before they released it.
Yeah.
Like, fuck. But whatever.
I'm in now. I'm going. Yeah.
But again, I didn't want to pay for like some domain that's going to cost me like 50 or 100 quid. XYZ was like 99 cents or something. I was like, that'll do. But then Google started flagging it as like suspicious, and I had loads of problems. So I looked up, and then when you messaged me saying, why is it not .com? I was like, well, because the .com costs 80 grand. But then I looked up at some different naming conventions, and it was Smart Chef app, which is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I think it was €5 or €6. So there's a bit of a gap between 80k and €5.
Yeah, just a tad. Yeah, for 3 letters, man. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Cool. And so smartchefapp.com. And what kind of chefs have you got on there at the moment? Because I know, again, something we discussed and an idea that you saw and thought of, and I don't want to be giving anything away because it may not be confirmed, right, or far from it, but like for someone, a stoner like me who wants to cook with cannabis, is that something, I know it's something you've thought about, is there any kind of, cooking with other kind of potential, I don't know, what options are there? You've got people who are wine experts, you've got pasta, I believe is something that I've seen you doing.
Yeah, so there's an Italian chef, there's a couple of home cooks, there's a couple of pastry chefs, there's a wine expert, and I'm going to add some more people over the coming months, weeks, whatever. The cannabis thing, I did have a chat with a really cool cannabis chef in LA, and she made a good point where, because of the what it is and the associations with it and the different laws in different countries, she prefers to do her own thing and not put herself on somebody else's platform, because that could cause them an issue.
Detriment for them. Yeah.
Because like if the business, say, becomes registered in Spain and the laws are different here, if I have Cannabis Chefs on the platform, I don't really know, even though it's online.
Yeah, what's the story when the UK or Ireland or anywhere like that, then if they're logging in and connecting with these people and you're, I get that, man. I get that.
But she did give me an idea. There could be a platform for Cannabis Chefs.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
You know?
No doubt.
So who knows?
Yeah. Well, there you go. And you could branch out into all sorts, hopefully, man. Yeah, that's a great idea, because it might be a case that it's easier to just do a platform for them. You've got the idea, you know how to build the platform, you've got the template. It's just, I suppose, turning it green, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, I hope this really, really takes off, man. I know that there's been a bit of work put into it. I think it's a great idea for someone who's not even into food and a foodie or someone. I think it's something that I'll definitely explore. You know, even getting the kids involved, some very basic kind of stuff that you could get the kids involved with might not be a bad. You know, I'm sure there's some chefs that would be open to that, and some chefs that'd be like, piss off, I don't want any children to be dealing with. But yeah, no, really, really, really good idea. I hope it takes off well for you, man. And let's hope that these two recordings can be pieced together, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Mate, we'll get it. If I can't, I'll figure it out, man. I'm an expert editor now. Do you know?
There you go.
Yeah, don't know about that.
Live and learn.
Live and learn. Well, listen, thanks for your time today, Bod. Really enjoyed the chat. I hope smartchefapp.com takes off for you. Anyone wants to go and have a look and book some time with a chef to get some cooking lessons in your home, you know where to go now.
Exactly.
Cheers, bro. Take care, man. Bye-bye.